Yo, what's going on, guys? My name's Wacky Kraken, and welcome back to the channel. This is episode 2 of the long road to Supersonic Legend from Champion. And actually, this week I did manage to hit Champion in ones, and I actually made it to Champion 3 in tournaments. I don't know if that was just luck or what, but I played pretty well, honestly, in the games, so I was pretty proud of that. Other than that, this episode we're going to be focusing on 1v1s. I think the structure for these videos from now on are just going to be each week I'm going to focus on one game mode, and I'm going to do 3 things to work on in each game mode that's going to be tailored toward that game mode. Every week I'm going to work on one mental thing, one offensive mechanic, and one defensive mechanic. So in ones, the mental thing is just going to be challenge timing. I really need to work on this because as I start to move into champ and just high diamond even, challenging at the wrong time can result in a goal, and the further up you get, you know, the worse your challenge timing, the more you're going to get scored on. The offensive mechanic is going to be just flick consistency, which I'll be working on a lot in the coming weeks. As for the defensive mechanic, I'm going to be doing shadow defending. Reason for that is because I think it just goes really well with the challenge timing. It's essentially my major flaw with shadow defending. With shadow defending, you typically just want to turn on them as quick as you can and take advantage of that mistake in order to just remove the possibility that they even take a shot on you. That way there's really no risk. So in this video I'm going to go over how I trained the mechanics, what I looked like at the beginning of the week, and then what I looked like after at the end of the week. And along with the proof of the footage that I have, also I was able to hit champ for the first time this week in ones. So clearly what I trained helped me out a lot. Anyway, without further ado, let's get right into it. The first thing I want to go over is the offensive mechanic of the week, flick consistency. So for training my flick consistency, I basically do just what you're seeing in the footage. Go into free play. I have the luxury of BakkesMod installed. If you don't already have that, please install it. It's amazing for training. But I basically just go up and down the field, picking the ball up on my car as opposed to spawning it, because I think that, you know, getting into the dribble and then going all the way down and flicking, that's the best way to simulate how it's actually going to be in ones and the pressure of having to carry the ball. If you're on console or you just don't want to install BakkesMod, don't worry, I got you with a code for a training pack here. Any dribble training pack will work. I like this one a lot though because of the last 2 shots in the pack. It's only 4 shots, but the last 2 come from the sides of the map. And I think that that's a lot more realistic, since most of the time in a game you're not just going to get the ball dropped on top of your car right in the middle of the field on course for the goal. So I think it's smart to train in a way that you would expect to apply in a game. My non-offensive mechanic of the week was shadow defending. To train this, I used the training pack shown on screen. The only advice I could really give you for training shadow defense, other than just using a training pack, is that once you're in the training pack, try to pretend that there's a defender on the field. By doing this, you can create scenarios such as the defender waiting and sitting in the back, in which case you'd want to wait and try to possess the ball. You could also pretend that they're rushing, in which case you'd want to jump up as quick as you can to try to defend the shot. You could pretend that they go out into midfield, in which case you'd want to cut towards your corner and try to keep it away from the center of the field. You could also pretend that they're sitting waiting in your corner, in which case you'd want to cut more toward mid and go out toward their net. I usually try to save each one of these shots at least 4 different ways, once again trying to simulate the way that a game works and how inconsistent it can be. You can't just train the same defense over and over and over, since you're going to run into different opponents who play completely differently. Now we're going to look at the 3 mechanics that I want to review this week in the games that I played at the beginning, and then we're going to compare them to what I changed and how it helped me at the end of the week. So the first thing that I want to talk about improving is the mental element of my game, which is challenge timing, and I have a huge problem with this. This is a clip from the games that I played at the beginning of the week, and you can see that right here he takes a pretty big touch on the ball and doesn't really have control. And during that time, if I was closer and shadowing correctly and challenged at the right time, I'd be able to just take that ball right off of his head. Instead, I let him get too close and threaten with his shot, and although I could have saved this shot for sure, the reality of the scenario is that I just shouldn't have let it happen in the first place. I think errors in flick consistency is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm still going to show some clips anyway of times where I made blatant mistakes on flicks where I definitely could have scored or at least put a threatening shot on goal. It may be apparent to some of you already, but if you can't tell, the reason that I'm messing up most of these flicks isn't because I can't do them, it's because I'm rushing. I tend to drop the ball out of haste right before I flick, and that's the main thing I'm going to be trying to work on this week. If I can slow myself down and be more procedural with my actions, I should be able to flick much more consistently. Shadow defense goes hand in hand with challenge timing, but it's a little different in this case since it's not just about the time that you challenge, but it's also about the distance you are from your opponent. This week, I'm really going to try to focus on putting myself in just the right spot to where I feel comfortable saving any shot they could take, but also close enough to capitalize on any mistake they might make. This is really the key to shadow defending. The clips in the background show a few times where I was out of position and I either get scored on or I miss an opportunity to take it off their head. Whether or not I do get scored on, it was still an opportunity for me to win that and potentially score on them. Now I'll go over some of the improvements I made this week. This is gameplay footage about 5 days after the first footage was taken. Most of it just came down to timing my challenges correctly and making sure I was staying in the right shadowing position. As you can see in most of these clips, I stuck a little bit closer to them and I was less afraid to challenge them when they made a mistake. And as a result, I was able to take it off of their heads very easily, and a few of them even resulted in easy goals. This change was super easy to implement. Combining the challenge timing with the shadow defense was a really good combo, I think, for my first week. And it's something that I see a lot of players making mistakes with. Their defense, it feels like you might be in the right spot, but then your opponent does something you're not expecting, and that puts you in an awkward position, and shadow defense is all about trying to avoid that. As far as flick consistency goes, if I've learned one thing this week, it's been that it doesn't really come down to the execution of the flick, so much as it comes down to keeping the ball in the right spot on my car. I'm sure if many of you are watching this video in Champion, you're not perfect at dribbling. You probably can ball carry, but maybe not perfect. Some of you, I'm sure, are better than others. Me personally, I'd say I'm pretty average, and I think that was my main problem, is that I was focusing too much on the actual motion of the flick, and then I would lose my dribble, and the ball would end up on the wrong spot. You can see in a lot of these better flicks, the ball is maintaining a better spot on the car. There's no sparks. It just looks a lot cleaner the whole time I'm carrying it. So if you want to get your flicks more consistent, and if that's something you struggle with in free play or in the game, then I highly recommend just working on your dribbling instead and then trying to come back to flicking afterward. If you want to get good at something, you have to get good at the fundamentals first, and I think that applies to flicks almost more than any other mechanic in Rocket League. You have to be good at dribbling before you attempt complicated flicks. The better you are at dribbling, the easier it'll be for you to learn those new flicks. I hope this video helped you understand more of what you need to work on in ones if you're at this level. If it did, or if it didn't, please consider dropping a like on the video, and if you want to watch the rest of my journey to Supersonic Legend, consider subscribing. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace out.